So normally at the end of the month, what I've been doing lately on the channel is kind of talking about some of the games that are coming out the following month to give you an idea of what's coming down the pike and what you might be excited about, be it for Steam or console or whatever. But considering a lot of people kind of already know what they're excited about that's coming out in the next month, and also that a lot of the games that I tend to feature will have their release dates changed by the time the video actually goes live, today I thought I would do something a little bit different and just talk about some recent games that I've picked up, stuff that I've been playing, both on the Steam Deck and for console, and just kind of have a loose off-the-cuff video where I talk about some of the fun things that I've been doing lately in preparation for upcoming videos. Because between Steam and retro stuff and new releases that come out for the PS5, Switch 2, and to a lesser degree the Xbox, I pick up a fair amount of games in any given month, but I'm not going to go through every single pickup. But what I did want to do today was talk about some of the more notable things that I've picked up recently, both physically and digitally. And much to my surprise, it wasn't just games or software this month. In fact, I actually picked up a few new pieces of hardware as well, and the first one that I wanted to talk about was one that completely took me by surprise, and that would be I bought a Wii U in 2026. Now, for a little bit of background on this, I actually bought a PS3 from GameStop last year, and it was a pre-owned system, and I picked up one of the slim models because I didn't want to put wear and tear on my original PlayStation 3, and that system showed up in amazing shape. It seriously looked like it was brand new right out of the box. So after having a great experience with it, I figured, you know what, I'll go ahead and order a Wii U as well, because I've been meaning to kind of get back to that system for a while, and that one showed up in just the polar opposite in terms of what kind of shape it could have arrived in. It was kind of dirty and busted up, it was scratched, it did not have the sensor bar included with it, and it was completely missing the power adapter for the Wii U gamepad, so ultimately I ended up returning that to my local GameStop, and then I just kind of forgot about it over the past year. That is, until I went to one of my local shops here in Columbus a couple of weeks back, and they actually had a Wii U that looked like it was in absolutely pristine condition. I think there were a couple of scratches maybe on the bottom of the console itself, but the Wii U gamepad looked amazing and it appeared to have every accessory with it, and they only wanted like $120 for it, which was an absolute steal considering the Wii U normally goes for about $200 right now. And the reason I was so excited to find this and revisit the Wii U is because when it first came out in 2012, I was really excited for the launch of that system. I actually went to a midnight launch with a buddy of mine and camped out at a local Target for it, but after about a year with the system and seeing that it really wasn't having a ton of great games, ultimately I ended up parting with it and selling it to a coworker for I think like $200 at the time, and I kind of figured that maybe one day I would revisit the system, and it turns out that day is today. And because I now have a Wii U back in my collection, in turn that led to me hopping around a ton of different games for the Wii U, and you know what, even though the Wii U was not Nintendo's best system by any stretch of the imagination, it still had some pretty quality titles. Now, granted, a lot of the best games from the Wii U era have already been ported over to the Switch and can be played elsewhere, usually in better quality, but not every game has. But that's something I'll explore more fully when I kind of do a video just on the Nintendo Wii U and what it's like returning to it in 2026, and also probably a separate video just on modding the Wii U because I did that immediately. However, putting modding aside for a second, there was one game in particular I really did want to reacquire for the Wii U and give it another shot, and that would have been The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD. Because while I'm confident that sooner or later we will get HD ports of Legend of Zelda Wind Waker and Twilight Princess to the Switch, or maybe even full-blown remakes at some point, for now that's still the best way to experience this particular title. And the reason I was so hot on picking up this game in particular when it came to the Wii U is that when I first played Twilight Princess, not on the Wii U, but on the Wii when that first came out, I only played it for about an hour and I just couldn't get into it. And I think a lot of that had to do with the heavy emphasis on motion controls, but one of the nice things about Twilight Princess HD is that those are used very minimally, if at all, and you can play the game mostly conventionally, albeit with the added benefit of doing things like inventory management using the Wii U gamepad. In fact, even though I'm only a couple of hours into it at this point, I think the only real motion controls you have are using the gyro functionality of the gamepad itself to assist with aiming, which is actually really well implemented, because this version of the game was actually based off of the GameCube version and not the original Wii version. And one of the other things that made it hard for me to warm up to this game originally on the Wii was that the Wii just did not look that great visually compared to the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 at the time. The idea that I was still playing over composite cables for the most part was really just hard to look at compared to the more crisp image quality that I was getting from competing consoles at the time. But naturally, playing the updated HD version was a huge improvement for me, and immediately I started having a great time with it. About the only complaint that I have so far in the first early hours of this game is that occasionally it can be kind of awkward controlling Epona or Wolf Link, because sometimes it just doesn't quite feel like the controls are doing exactly what I'm telling him to do. But visually I'm loving the art style, and I feel like as somebody who was always kind of hoping for a sequel to Ocarina of Time, I feel like it does kind of give me what I was looking for in that regard, and now I can finally appreciate it in a way that I really just did not on the original Wii release. Also, I really love the way the character models look in this game. For the most part, there are some that kind of look nightmare fuelish, but by and large I would say it looks like a charming little adventure, and it's one that I'm pumped to dive into even if I am like 2 decades late to the party. And while the Wii U had a pretty slim library, its predecessor, the original Wii, definitely did not. And I was actually pretty thrilled that not only did I get to experience Wii U games again, but I could finally start collecting for the Wii again in a more meaningful way, and also enjoy better quality for those games, even if the image was a little bit soft since the Wii U is effectively just a Wii with an HDMI output. I mean, obviously more powerful than that, but you know what I mean. For all intents and purposes, if you want a nice, modern way to play the Wii U is a pretty solid way to do that. And in turn, that kind of led to me rekindling my excitement for the original Wii platform, and picking up a range of games for that as well. But there was one specific genre from the Wii era that I really did enjoy quite a bit, and even though I didn't have every game from this genre, I started making a concerted effort to start picking up a range of rail shooters or light gun games. And one of the first ones that I picked up was Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles. And I know in the past I've said that I'm not a huge fan of waggle controls or anything like that, and while that is true, I do make an exception for light gun games because I grew up playing some of the greatest ones in arcades and malls like House of the Dead, or Silent Scope, or Area 51, or a whole range of others that I'm positive I'm forgetting right now, and they are just such a natural fit for the Wii. And Umbrella Chronicles in particular is probably one of the best light gun games that I've ever played in that regard. I mean, after all, most of the movement is handled for you, and really the only thing you have to worry about is shooting things on screen, looking for item pickups in the environment, but then it also does mix things up as well by letting you do melee attacks or chuck grenades, and really the whole thing just comes together quite nicely. And considering it does expand on the early game's lore while also letting you have just a literal blast taking out Umbrella's horrifying creations along the way, I was so glad to have this game re-added to my collection, specifically thanks to my friend Saif, who actually had a copy of it and sold it to me. So Saif, if you're watching, thank you for helping me rekindle this particular part of excitement that I have for the Wii platform. But Umbrella Chronicles is also a really nice complement to Resident Evil Requiem, which I recently finished and had a great time with, specifically because, considering that game leans so hard into nostalgia, and that Umbrella Chronicles kind of covers some of those earlier entries in the Resident Evil canon, it is really nice to jump back in and explore those as well, albeit in a unique way, since again it is like a rail shooter. And I'm very excited to play this with a buddy of mine who's also a huge Resident Evil fan, and I think the main campaign for Umbrella Chronicles only takes something like 6 or 7 hours to beat, so I think that's probably totally doable in a couple of play sessions, and I'm really hoping that I can play through the entire thing with him, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Now, moving away from retro consoles and back over to the Steam Deck for a second, I have been playing the Mr. Sleepy Man demo on Steam, and it is a super good time. Right from the jump, this game just conjures up the weirder fare from the 90s like Parappa the Rappa, or Toe Jam and Earl, Earthbound, Rocko's Modern Life, or any other weird fringe game from that 4th or 5th generation. Sadly, even though I'm having fun running around in the demo of Mr. Sleepy Man, and its absolute just fever dream of a visual presentation, the demo progress does not carry over into the main game. However, I will say that having spent, I would say, about an hour or two with it so far, I've had so much fun with the demo that I'm probably going to go ahead and take a leap on a full purchase of the game, assuming I'm not going to like hold out for a physical release or something like that. The basic premise is that you play as a sleepy guy who's up way past his bedtime, and your key objective is to just make a mess of everything and turn the denizens of Bedtime Town against you. It is, again, a totally unhinged fever dream, and the theme song is an absolute banger. I won't spoil for you here, but yeah, you should definitely check out the demo for this one, especially if you are at all a fan of like weird off-kilter 3D platformers. But moving away from dreamlike games to absolute nightmares, I did end up picking up Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake, and it is predictably as terrifying as I thought it would be. Now, I was a little bit bummed that the PS5 version that I picked up is sadly locked to 30 FPS, which maybe at some point they'll patch that, because I can't for a second imagine that the PS5 Pro could not handle this game at 60 FPS, but really the biggest reason that I wanted to play this anyways was just so I could get super scared and freak myself out, because again, J-horror is a unique type of horror that really does freak me out more than any other kind. And considering I did play this a few months back just to emulate the PS2 version for a video that I was working on, diving into it now, it is really awesome seeing the visual upgrades that they have on display here, but even though the environments are creepy and everything about this is kind of mortifying to work your way through, I think the thing that really stood out to me most is the fact that the character models for the ghosts in particular just look way more detailed whenever you're actually looking at them with the camera obscura. And battling it out with the camera whenever you're up close and personal with the ghost really is just incredibly unsettling at this kind of fidelity. So yeah, I think that's probably a good enough look at some of the hardware and software I've been messing around with lately, and I'm very excited to do some more emulation or retro console videos in the coming weeks, but also still working on a Games You Made Me Play video for Steam in particular, and that's probably the biggest thing that I've been playing outside of what I've already outlined, is I have been hopping through a range of games that you've recommended, but I probably still need 1 or 2 more games for that video, so yeah, if you have any recommendations for Steam games that you've been playing lately on the deck, I would love to hear about it so I can kind of wrap that video up. Also, please do let me know if you do like this format for videos where I just kind of highlight a few recent pickups for the games that I've been playing lately, as opposed to doing like the games coming out next month format, because even though I enjoy doing it, it doesn't seem like it's really that valuable to a lot of people who watch videos here, but hey, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch videos here, it really does mean a lot to me. Take care, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.